to be a meteorologist and study the weather and storm chase and do research,
Yeah.
all that crazy stuff. And so that was like what I had dedicated my life to do when I was like very, very young. It's okay to do it because it's not as scary as it may seem. And you actually take away the power that it has over you by being able to put a lot of those feelings into words. You never know what you might miss below the surface as well. If you keep everything above the surface, if you never take the jump, you may actually miss something that's really beautiful underneath.
The intention is to get to know Nate Jackson on a more personal level. So people can take away from the video whatever they want to take away,
Yeah,
whether it's this aspect of your life, this aspect of your life. What were you like as a kid?
Oof, as a kid, I
As a kid.
was far different than how I am now as an adult. As a kid, I was very quiet, very shy, always hung around my mom and dad, very rarely adventured anywhere. My parents kept me on a pretty tight leash, so to speak. So I had to follow every single rule. I had to make sure that I was a very good kid. Otherwise, I'd get punished pretty heavily. So I learned from a very young age about, um, again, just like being very respectful and making sure that I would have standing. And I don't know if you know what that term means, but my dad, when I got a little bit older, he said you have to have standing in whatever it is that you do in order to earn the right to do something that you want for yourself. So that most of the time would be kind of centered around schoolwork. So as I got old enough to where grades were a thing, my dad would just constantly repeat again and again and again. And he said, "Hey, do you have standing?" I'll come up and say, "Hey, can I go play soccer?" And he would say, "Do you have standing? Did you get your homework done? Did you get your chores done?"
Yeah.
If I said, no, well, you got to have standing before you then earn the opportunity to do something for yourself. And as an adult now, I look back on that and I see how true that is, because if I'm working and I would rather, do other stuff that isn't related to work, then I realize, oh, I'm in a kind of a bad situation because I haven't gotten done what I'm supposed to get done. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of, I've carried that throughout life, is prioritizing getting things done that are required to then earn that opportunity to like reward myself, whether that's, oh, I'm going to go out and
Sure.
go on a trip somewhere because I save
Yeah.
money, or I'm going to go, maybe I take a day off and I just relax for a bit because I've built up, enough in my like bank account, so to speak, to where I can
Yeah.
take.
What was your high school and college experience?
High school was similar to my childhood, where again I was very quiet. I had a very small circle of friends. I had three very close friends that were in my grade, and I had one that was a year older. Um, Throughout my freshman year, very reserved, knew barely anybody. When I went into my sophomore year, that was where I met my then and still best friend, who was a junior at the time, and he had seen a lot more in life than I had.
Yeah.
And so he kind of guided me throughout what high school is like, how to read different social
Like a
interactions,
mentor or like a friend?
as both a friend and as a mentor. And so we ended up, it took me a long time to realize it, but as much as he was helping me, I was helping him, because he was very close to going on a path that would not have suited him, and he would never have ended up where he is today. But at the same time, what he was able to share with me and the mentorship through friendship that he provided to me, um, allowed me to grow and feel more confident in who I was as a person, to then be able to like head into college and know that I could look someone in the eye, give them a handshake, talk to a stranger, and not feel quiet or unsure of what to say.
Yeah.
And I developed a lot more confidence in who I was as a person, and could go out and just say, hey, this is who I am. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, so be
For
it.
sure, yeah. What do you think the difference is between having, it's like a few close friends like
Mm-hmm.
that, like what you had, or like a whole bunch of friends?
It's actually a good segue into college, because I had such a small group of friends in high school. I had pretty much four friends. And I went from there into college, where I had to figure out, okay, who is going to be like my group of friends. And I ended up having like five or six different circles of friends that ranged from like, 5 to 7 people all the way up to like 15, 20, 30 people. And so I met all these amazing people. I had so many relationships, but they were all pretty surface level for the most part. And I never really got to know who I was with.
Mm-hmm.
And
as
so
far as deep as your high school friends?
Exactly. Yeah. And so those high school friends that I had, I'm still very close with to this day. Most of them are still living pretty locally. One of them's on the East Coast now, but all of the college friends, I realized I was spread so thin, and I wasn't really, they were relationships, but they weren't like deeper, meaningful relationships. And so what ended up happening was, after my freshman, partway through my sophomore year, I just cut out entire friend groups. I was like, no, like this just,
Really?
like they're good people, but, and part of that was kind of a self-destructive tendency that I had. That was a period of my life where I wasn't doing terribly well, and so I essentially just put walls up and just cut dozens of people out of my life, and then I ended up having a smaller circle again. But in doing so, I wasn't able to foster much stronger connections with people that I'm now still talking to today, rather than having surface level relationships with people that once I graduated college, it was like, all right, good luck. And so essentially I grew up in Westland, very, very close to here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up in Westland,
Westland High School.
Yeah, Westland High School, small suburban community. I would then hang out with my best friend, the one who was a junior at the time when I was a sophomore. And we just play in adult men's leagues. We just played soccer. Yeah, and that was how I learned pretty much everything about soccer. I'd already played for many years up to that point. Just was essentially thrown into the fire because I was 16 years old playing against. This is actually a number of cool stories. I played against Danny Mwanga, who at the time was MLS Rookie of the Year for the Portland Timbers. I played against Eric Hurtado, who played for the Vancouver Whitecaps. I played against, oh my gosh, I played against Marco Farfan, who played with FC Dallas. Played against Chad Barrett with the Seattle Sounders. There was another guy who went to Milwaukee High School, played on the El Salvadorian national team. So I played against like pro and national team level players. I played with another guy, Vitas, who now coaches at the Portland Thorns. He was on the Lithuanian national team.
And this was all in the Westland, like local.
This was at Tualatin. This is like Tualatin Indoor. So, but these were all people that had like played through Westside or kind of
so they were all local
up in there. Yeah, so they were all local. They all came back to play.
Yeah.
And so I just was playing against grown men. And I just went through high school, and I had a set. I remember this very vividly. It was the end of my freshman year, and all the seniors that were graduating, there were 3 things that they had next to their name. A lot of them had 4.0 plus GPA, graduating with honors, and were part of National Honor Society. And I was like, I want those 3 things next to my name by the time I graduate.
Yeah.
And then when I got up to graduate, it was Nathan Jackson. It was 4.0 plus honors and National Honor Society. And I was like, I did it. But then so much of my life had been dedicated to just having 3 things next to my name on a piece of paper. And I was like, okay, now what? Like what's my next motivation? So I got to college, and then I decided, well, I want to graduate with as close to a 4.0 GPA as possible and have special distinction and magna cum laude or whatever it was that they offered.
Sure.
And that was my next motivation. Essentially, college was just a mirror of what high school was. I was just in a different state. I was just 2,000 miles away. And so I got to the end of my college career, and I had next to my name, graduate with special distinction, top, I think it's like top 1 or 2% in my graduating class at the university. But then what ended up happening was some letters and numbers next to my name became like, that's who I was. All like physically, like who I was just down to a couple of words and a couple of letters. And that had been my entire life up until the age of 22 years old. I graduated, and what should have been one of the best moments of my life was actually one of the worst moments of my life, because I had nothing else aside from a couple of things next to my name. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what I had to offer the world. I had no value of myself. And for the next probably 2 to 3 years, I had no direction in life because I couldn't find a job. No one wanted to hire me. I was like, I've dedicated all of this time and effort to like be something, and now no one wants me. And I was like, is this really like, is this it? And so it took me those couple years after I graduated from college to then separate that I can still have an internal motivation for what it is that I want to do, but I'm not doing what I'm doing to please others. I'm doing it because it brings me joy. And so that then became the transition from, all right, I study meteorology, like that was what I want to do, to now what brings me joy. I said, well, the thing that brings me the most joy is playing soccer. And then I found quickly that the only thing that brings me more joy than playing soccer is being able to help others enjoy soccer. I then started coaching competitively with Willamette, did that for a year. Then I worked with another club for a year, then came back, and then I went from head coach to then assistant with Oregon Premier Academy team, to now being a head coach of an academy team, to now I do stuff with the Portland Timbers with their youth programming. I was doing ODP. Now I'm going to Spain to do stuff.
Wow.
And
So it's really bloomed then, huh?
it has, and to where it's now what I love more than anything. I had a coach when I was 13 years old. His name was Henry Dauna. He was from Ghana. I went to tryouts, and throughout the course of that season, things were a lot better. The coach was really caring, but I remember one moment in particular where I had been in like really good form. I had scored like a game-winning goal. I'd gotten an assist that led to us winning a game, and a lot of the players were still just like being pretty ruthless with me, and it like just making me the butt of everything.
Yeah.
And the coach stopped the practice, and he brought everyone in. He put me in the middle of the circle with him, and he said, why on earth are you treating him the way that you're treating when he is the reason why you've even like had success as of late? And I vaguely remember that moment where it was on the same field where I had scored a game-winning goal in a game, and that kind of encapsulated belief that he had in me. And he didn't teach me anything about soccer, but he just saw that like I could be something, and he saw that like your worth as a person is far more than your worth as a soccer player.
And what other people think.
And what?
And what other people think.
Exactly. And so that 1 year that I had him as a coach made me truly fall in love with playing soccer again. Yeah.
And actually, you did say we're talking about like your story.
Yeah.
And I've noticed you have like tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you could share about those?
I absolutely can. So this one
You think you could show that?
Yeah, if you can see it. So that's the first one. It says "Dive," and it's a reminder of it being my favorite song, but it was also a reminder to essentially like take that leap of faith. And what I mean by that is I was someone that would hold things very, very close to the chest, and I would put walls up in between people. So anytime there was an opportunity for me to be vulnerable and share what it was that I was feeling, I would just like put a wall up, and I would just like, no, I can't.
I think a lot of people do that.
And I felt a bunch of shame about what I was feeling, and there are things that I had even done to myself that I felt a significant amount of shame about. And I was like, no, like I can't share this. I can't have people know this about me. And so I was just afraid of like who I was going to become if I fully like let all those emotions known to the world. I was like, I know what I was going to say. I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to like sabotage everything I had done throughout my entire life to get to where I was.
Yeah.
And
did you end up?
No, because in one of those sessions, I when it clicked, that was the moment that I like came above the surface, but I didn't realize that I had been fully submerged in the first place. So it's a reminder that you can take, you meaning like myself, I can take that plunge, and I can be vulnerable, and I can essentially just bear everything that I have to the world, and I can still come back up to the surface, and I'm going to be okay. That's the first one. And then the second one is Survive and Advance. It's a It was a phrase that was shared by Jim Valvano, who was the head coach of North Carolina State in the NCAA men's basketball tournament in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
It was what he shared with his team. They were like this. They made like a Cinderella run. They're like the number 10 seed or something. They weren't expected to win.
Yeah.
But he treated every single round of the NCAA tournament like another challenge. But he also said, like, that's what life is too. You just survive what is thrown at you, like every round of the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
You then advance forward. You survive what's thrown at you, and then you advance forward.
And now you said that you were always like closed off and you didn't want to share much.
Yeah.
You're being recorded. You're okay with sharing right now. What's up with that? Like, what changed? What's different?
Well, the more that I do share it, the more comfortable that I feel, the more at peace I am that I even experience these things in the first place. And again, the less power that it has over me. So it's been a while since I've actually shared a lot of what I'm sharing with you. It's actually been years, honestly.
Does it feel good?
It does. The more often that you share things that are really, really heavy, the more free you feel. Because a lot of what I felt in my mind was very dark, was very mysterious. Like I didn't know where it was coming from. Once I found the source of where it was coming from, then I knew how to stop it, and then it wasn't as dangerous as I thought it was.
Yeah, it didn't have the same power.
Yeah, exactly. And so then because it had the same power and I was able to stop the source, I could then take the weight off, lay it down, keep moving forward. And then eventually, if you keep moving forward long enough, you turn around, you barely even see it. And it's just left in the past. So it's almost like metaphorically disappearing.
All right, last question here. Any advice for me?
There's a number of different things floating through my head. I want to try to distill it down to one. No matter what challenge appears in your life, always know that it will be better after you go through it. And there's something that you will have learned along the way. Any challenge that you face is ultimately a matter of how much strength you have to be able to overcome it. But if you trust yourself enough and you tell yourself enough that you can get through whatever that challenge may be, you will ultimately overcome it. And you will, as much as it may beat you down and break you, you'll actually come out stronger on the other side. Which I think if you approach life that way, where you treat every obstacle again as an opportunity for growth or something where you can learn from it, by the time you get older, you're going to have a much more favorable view of life. I think you'll go through life with much more fulfillment and enjoyment.
Nate Jackson, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.